Welcome everyone, Simon here from the Wales of Wall Street XDC video for you guys today. One of my favourite technologies, partners, teams, you name it. It's one I've been accumulating for a while, and for sure absolutely love watching the continuous developments of XDC, and of course meeting the team fairly recently at a TFDI event latter stage of last year. We do have the video coming up with Sunil and some other team members of XDC in the coming weeks. We've been trying the last few weeks, but we had to keep moving it around. So I'm looking forward to that. But I just wanted to touch on a very quick topic around TradeFinex again with XDC. Off the back of an article that came back towards the end of December, one of the last kind of like key mini runs that XDC had was related to this, and just a bit of a reiteration around that point. So whilst there hasn't been gigantic amounts of information or updates from XDC, there's always things going on in the background, piloting, testing, development, etc. And I think that this one is definitely something that we just need to keep an eye on constantly. Also, on top of that, we'll go on to the price point of XDC, because it's now at a price in the market that I haven't seen since last April, and certainly something I've been absolutely massively patiently waiting for. So we're going into a bit more detail about that. Before we do, let's go to the browser. Don't forget to smash that subscribe button if you have not done so already. Welcome to the channel if you are new, of course. Loads of different topics and discussions, loads of different interviews as well. As I said, looking forward to the XDC team. We've also got the Energy Web team and Energy Web X team on very soon as well. So let's first and foremost go to this point about the article in December. So this was off the back of something called InvoiceMate, utilizing or performing the first private credit transaction on the XDC network blockchain using TradeFinex open source Web3 standards. Now, TradeFinex is an ISO 222 compliant platform. There's a multitude of companies involved with this. Got InvoiceMate, which we'll go into in a second, H&H International, Eclipton, as the custodian, or for a better word, kind of like the wallet platform. TradeFinex, which mentioned a minute ago as well. And then the utilization solution, utilizing XDC network as an enterprise grade open source blockchain protocol, and the XD stablecoin. This is, I think, the Fathom. Is it called Fathom? I've got that completely wrong. That's the stablecoin based on those guys. And TradeFinex we've already mentioned. So what is interesting about this, of course, the utilization predominantly around real-world asset application, particularly in smart contracts and certainly potential invoicing. Now, administrative aspects of invoicing does cost quite a lot of money in some cases, and we've done previous videos, which I'll leave a link to at the end of this one, where we delve into huge data and information and analytical statistics of how much money is not necessarily like lost from invoicing incorrectly and stuff, but the cost of that resource to apply this, and also how much money can be saved and how much the economy could be sped up with the utilization of automating the invoicing process, the trade finance process in general. Now, for those that are new to the channel, I talk about this quite a lot. And in this instance, there's a huge amount of market value towards global trade finance, the market itself. I'm not talking about trading, the trading market, which is trillions upon trillions of dollars. We're talking about the trade finance market. So this is something that's very much being unlocked over the last, I would say, year or two, particularly, and certainly something to keep an eye on for the near future. I think, in my opinion, this number is very conservative towards 2030. I think it would be a lot higher than that. But the principle here being that if you look at any assets or contributing blockchain partners that are operating within the trade finance industry, you're definitely onto a winner for sure. It's just a question of researching those projects particularly, and like we've done in XDC many times in the past and continue to do so. These are the evolving development technology partners that will be heavily integrated with trade finance across the world. As a multitude of companies involved in trade finance, of course, you'll probably recognize most of these. Most of them look like they are banks, which they are. And in some instances, you do get like the platform applications, of course. And now with the integration of blockchain, AI, IoT, etc., it's really going to start stitching together, guys. It's really exciting. And it's very exciting as an XDC holder for sure, because I do think as we go into the market conversation in a minute on the chart, you'll see why that might be and where we could get to with this as well. So looping this backwards a bit more, this is where it gets really exciting in terms of the progression that we've seen digitally of everything. Now, if you can imagine the historic information around paper, the use of paper, I would say probably 10 or so years ago was a real defining point of people becoming more and more digitally focused. There wasn't as much paper usage as there was, say 20, 30 years ago, which is understandable. The usage, of course, email abilities, CRM platforms, potentially you could argue as well cloud storage for invoicing, sending documents via cloud, etc., rather than sending paper in the post or using paper. So there's definitely a sustainable point there to be made for sure. But now we're taking it to another level where we need to make sure that the data that's being transferred back and forth, or the invoices, are not manipulated in any way. They are fully 100% accurate, validated and processed correctly as well. Then the processing aspect costs a lot of money because it's resource. You usually have admin teams or finance teams working on this, and as much as we hate to say it, most of these jobs are depleting significantly with the use now of digital technology, but also things like artificial intelligence taking on board that responsibility of confirming, validating, processing, along with the integration of blockchain as well. So this is why you're going to see this narrative a lot more over the coming years, blockchain and AI in the same sentences over and over again. We did a really cool video quite recently about emerging technologies, particularly one that kind of comes under this deep-in factor. Definitely check that one out. And there's a couple of other instances where we talk specifically about the merging technology principles of all these technologies coming together. So with this aspect here, we've got the ability of AI to do its deep learning mechanism or potentially automate invoices based on algorithmic data. A little simple example really is taking the mechanism of the buying and selling module of consumer behavior. If me as a customer, let's say of Amazon, I have my subscribe and saves, and it knows that I need certain things at certain times because all of my things, my identity, my purchasing opportunities are all linked together. This, we're talking about a few years in the future, but the principles and the foundations are definitely there today. So if it already knows my trend setting application of me, Simon, in the real world of when I buy things, what I buy, don't buy, etc., or the kind of things that I go, like whether it's accommodation or transportation, whatever it might be, the AI can kick in to actually predict this and organize my life for me ahead of time before I even think about it. That's where it's going to be getting to, and it's no different to invoicing. To understand that rather than let's say a forecasting model, a company or a distributor asks for X amount of products from a supplier, let's say cameras for example, and they need to forecast like which retailers or e-tailers that's going into, or e-commerce, and identifying how many do they need to order of this, and then obviously replenish that stock in a month's time, 2 months time, 6 months time, etc., etc. It's a very much arguably a manual process. Someone still needs to go out there with an email and go, hey guys, we're running out of stock here, can you send us some more? Fantastic. In some instances, or most instances now, that is not necessarily automated, but there's platforms and systems you can jump onto to make orders yourselves. It's like a shopping cart, right? But what can be done now moving forwards is that ability to order ahead of time based on algorithm. Obviously, there's things like applying things like debtors and creditors aspects or credit facilities. This is all going to change significantly in the world as well in the coming years, and it is definitely happening now. But this has the ability to, again, goes back to the automating of forecasting, trend setting, buying, purchasing, selling. All of these aspects require processing, validation, analytical aspects where AI kicks in, and then of course invoice creation. And in some instances, because of blockchain and the credit facilities that will be integrated, all of these things, the algorithms, data, AI data, etc., it can all be fully automated. So now all of a sudden you go from your finance team of 10 people to maybe 1 or 2 just to overlook things, and then possibly in the near future maybe none at all, because everything's been calculated, everything's been modularized, everything's been analyzed with all these learning structures that AI is capable of doing, and the infrastructure of IoT, or the connection of everyone and everything, including businesses and banks, will just operate together simultaneously, collectively. And it needs blockchain to do that because of the speeds, because of the amount of transactions per second. And I mean the transfer of an action, not necessarily just financial transactions. Everything that is done in that process, that funneling process, is an action, and it needs a transfer of something. And blockchain has the ability, like kind of a mini demonstration here, of applying that block method, inputting the data. It's verified, it's processed. You cannot change it. It's finite, or the finality of it is there. Yes, some modules like Casper Labs can potentially alter smart contracts, but this would be something that the company or business would formulate before anything's happened anyway. But in the grand principle of things is that this is all working together. So when you start going backwards to this article here about testing, piloting system, I mean, there's so many case studies out there now. We covered quite recently off the back of the TFDI event I went to last year, where I think it was Lloyd's, and they did a pilot testing of a hypothetical situation of several parties being involved in, I think it was like $49 million worth of land. And instead of taking months, if not years, for that process to occur, and all the validating, the interoperable aspect of all these companies having to talk to each other, it was done within a few hours. And it was the utilization of AI and blockchain as well, in particular for land registry checking, processing, validating, collating everyone's identities, the KYC aspect, the smart contract signing, the deed signing, all of these things done. And it's no different to anything else that could be done in the process of global trade finance, which is why, in my opinion, I think this number is very conservative, because I think once you start the technology process or improve it as it is today, you'll get that acceleration theory to say that this can go absolutely parabolic. Not necessarily always just the value here. I'm talking about parabolic in terms of technological advancement in this area. So XDC has a huge part to play in this. It is very much orchestrated itself as a hybrid blockchain opportunity in the public and private sectors. But in the last year or so, I would suggest, based on the fact that it's obviously now got the trade network arm of its organization, this is a huge area of significance, guys. And these guys are very heavily involved in majority of banking systems worldwide. They were definitely one of the first aspects to have the ISO 222 compliance, which is extremely important for the financial messaging services related to the new systems that are coming, the RTGS system. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can go and check out the big video that I did a couple of years ago in terms of 2025, are we ready? And this is exactly what I was going on about, the transitional perspective, the development perspective of getting to this point. So you see here, the XDC token using the Fathom protocol, primarily focused on real-world asset DeFi use cases. The success underscores the efficiency and innovation of blockchain-powered financing in traditional finance. It's taking over the existing system, or part of it at least. So it's not just saying XDC is the only one doing this. There's going to be a multitude of chains for sure. But XDC, as I said, is ahead of the game in the sense that it's already powerfully integrating and working with numerous banks, financial institutions worldwide. It's ahead of the game in my opinion. But yes, it is very early stages, but it's topics like this that excite me as an investor. So when we look at the chart, which I'll literally bring up to the screen right now, you can see that our current price point of XDC is 4.1 cents. Now, if you look back here, with the great narratives we had around XDC at that time last year of its application to the trade finance, people were jumping left, right and center into XDC, and we've shot up to 10 cents. I didn't really react to the selling momentum of that. I'm excited about XDC for sure, but I'm waiting for the higher grounds, the previous all-time high up here at 19 cents. But my point being is I had to wait a long time for us to get back to the price points that I haven't seen really, arguably, potentially you could say May last year, maybe April properly. So I've had to watch this upward trend. I knew it would come down in stages. I didn't anticipate personally to see it come down in such a long process, but I think this is what the mentality of a lot of investors do. They sometimes get bored and they just set it off. They move and start chasing other things. Of course, around some of these periods, obviously Solana did its thing, and a lot of projects started losing those holdings or that trade volume and went into other areas. There's loads of variables here, but for me, I do think we will definitely retest some of these lower regions. If you remember from previous videos, I've still got a 3.5 cent buy order here. People called me mad when it was going all the way up there, but it's slowly but surely coming into fruition. I had one back here, which I drew in the previous video as well, 4.3 cents, which I think we hit probably about a week or so ago. So I need to check my KuCoin. I'm pretty sure that would have executed. I'm definitely going to be waiting lower, but we're at a stage now around this 4 cent mark where I was quite comfortable to start inserting more XDC into my portfolio. So yes, I've got hopefully that buy order triggered, but I think there's plenty more opportunity as well. There's a huge future for XDC, but there's also absolutely massive opportunity for getting into the early stage of XDC. So it's not always great, obviously, when you're at the high periods and higher RSI levels to jump in, because there's always significant opportunity for that number to be a lot lower. And when we look at the trend setting application, I've just drawn these lines in just to give you a bit of a rough indication as to where in theory the potential trend can come. And I've obviously adjusted it based on the 2 high points here, and not too far off these two. It's a bit impossible to identify that, and then you start drawing lines that kind of accommodate your theory, when actually it should just be almost as we think it might be, and let's see if it plays out. You can't always get it 100%, but this defines to me that there's going to be a bit of a squeezing pattern, in my opinion. Yes, we could break out across these lines here, but ultimately that's where the exciting point for me is 3.8 cents and this 3.6 cents in particular, or 3.5, where I drew those circles in before. It's been a long journey, guys. I've been so patient with this. I haven't been buying on the way down. I've just been literally thinking, will it come in? If it doesn't, it's not a problem, because I've been buying XDC for a long time at various low prices. Yes, in most instances I tend to DCA, but XDC was a bit of an exception because I just knew that it's just so high compared to where I was buying at those low regions. So if it did come, brilliant. If it didn't, no worries. I'll just wait for the previous all-time highs and beyond to see where XDC could get to. So the argument has always been that we could potentially see 30 cents or even indeed just over the 50 cent mark on the long-term fib retracement levels. The difference between XDC now and 2021 is obviously the fact that there's huge, massive more amounts of utility. There's a trade finance narrative, which is worth arguably the whole entire trade aspect is trillions of dollars, but in terms of the finance aspects, it's still huge. And I think XDC will take a huge chunk of that market share, in my opinion. But what's interesting to me, and going back to that theory about the squeezing method, if you look at the indicators on the right hand side here, these all used to be fantastically green a few months ago. They're now in the reds, and quite a lot in the red on the year to date, in the 6 month in particular, which is where I think that we could get some Brucey bonuses just under that 4 cent mark. So let's see if that plays out. We're not far off it at all. Current trading as a recording 4.1 cents, as I said. So plenty of opportunity. The RSI is 14.36 on the bottom left here and 40 on the 28. So if that, for whatever reason, that didn't trigger a purchase order, I will probably be doing some DCAing at this area manually, not a huge amount, but I will still just be waiting on the sidelines for that lower spectrum. If we get back down to these low retest regions, of course, at the 3 cent mark on the nose, maybe even lower, I don't think we could necessarily get to that. It depends what the market does. If we have a big market crash, it is absolutely possible. But that's where I'm now at this position. The good thing about this personally is a DCA opportunity. So I'll be buying here, I'll be buying at this low spectrum, and I'll keep the mindset that we may, just potentially may, retest the lower under the 3 cent mark as well. So let's see what happens. But it's really exciting in the sense that we got a lot more movement to go for sure. You can see with narrative implementation, like we saw back here in August last year, that there's opportunity when we start getting that market increased momentum in the bull cycles, hopefully towards the end of this year into next year. It will take that, but also add on top of it the great things that are happening in the space, in the sector that is working in as well. And that's why I think we'll absolutely smash through the 20 cent mark at some point in the next year and a half for sure. Let's keep an eye on it, guys. Let us know in the comments below what you think about XDC. I'm super excited. I'm excited as well to be accumulating at these lower regions again. I know it sounds a bit selfish, but I know there's a long way to go. So it was inevitable in my mind. I just wasn't expecting to wait this long. But there we go, guys. Thanks for watching this XDC update video. We'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.